Well, it's Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I just watched the Amazon series I Still Know What We Did Last Summer. Now, I had no idea this show existed. I only found it because I got a free trial of Amazon when I was trying to get free shipping on a parcel. And I was just scrolling through and I saw this and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe they made a series of the movie because I love the movie. They made a series of Scream, it wasn't so good, haven't finished it. But this, I thought, this is such a simple idea, they can't get it wrong. Okay, so if you haven't read the book or seen the movie or the series, I'm going to do spoils for everything. So spoiler alert. The original story was a novel, and the movie and the novel are basically the same. There are kids partying, they hit a kid riding a bike on the road, they hide it. The next year someone sends them messages saying, I know what you did last summer, and they get stalked one by one. Now this series tries to be quite different. And you've got to give them a little bit of credit for trying to do something more complicated, but they add a level of deception they didn't need to with the series. And there are some other issues. Now I'm going to explain everything that happens. I'm not going to tell it in the order it gets revealed to you because it's just too complicated. But basically the main characters, there's Lenny and Allison who are twins. There's Lenny's best friend Margot that she seems to be in a relationship with. There's her gay best friend. They were a couple, they're both Asian. There is a Hawaiian girl called Riley who sort of had a crush on Dylan, who Dylan is in love with Lenny. But she's too miserable to sort of be with him. She's sort of the depressing good girl, and Allison is the promiscuous sort of popular party girl. And they're having a fight because Allison slept with Dylan, which of course, you know, Allison she did that to hurt her, I guess, because Lenny was the one who had feelings for him and was saving herself for him, basically. So they're fighting over that, and they get into their mother because their mother committed suicide, which is kind of why they both messed up. And Allison says to Lenny that she never loved you, she never loved us. And she gives her a necklace, which is the only thing that could differentiate them because they're both wearing the same outfit to this party. And she says, just take this, you've taken everything else. So she goes to leave, and Allison has a fight with her father. He takes her home because she's a bit rattled by, you know, what Lenny said in the fight as well. And they're fighting in the car because she has found out that the mother didn't kill herself. The father told her and wants her to keep it a secret, and she's threatening him to expose him. He drops her off on the side of the road and leaves. Now, Lenny gets in the car, the other kids come down, they think she's Allison. She just drives because she just couldn't be bothered explaining anything. And she sees Allison on the road, and Allison actually runs towards the car, and she speeds up and she hits her and kills her. Now, the other kids think it's an accident, but we know that's not. We don't see this till, I think, episode 6 in a dream, and then later on she does explain that that's what she did. But so she killed her deliberately because she was just so angry and hated her. They all decide to cover it up, and Lenny has to continue pretending to be Allison. She tells her dad, but she doesn't tell anyone else. Now, why they didn't just tell the truth about that part and then just keep the murder a mystery would have been fine. I don't know why they had to have this extra level of deception. It just makes it complicated and messy, and yeah. So the next year she comes back and she finds a goat head in her closet with the message, I know what you did last summer. So it starts to go more like the movie from that point. And the thing that I hated the most about the series, I think, the first thing I hated about the series was the first character to be killed is the gay Asian best friend, Johnny, who is very cute and very masked and not, you know, stereotypical or anything. He's dating the old gym teacher. They got together after they left school and that. And he dies first. He doesn't die very well. And I thought, well, maybe they're just going to start killing them one by one fairly early on. Well, it's ages until the next main character gets killed. So it really just did feel like, you know, bury your gays. So that was disappointing. Now, people start dying, and there's a black truck that seems to be following Allison around. I'm just going to call her Allison even though she's Lenny because everyone thinks she's Allison. And she's pretending to be Allison. She's gone away for a year and sort of tried to become Allison. And everyone's sort of gone their own way and come back together for this sort of coming back home. Now, they kind of start to believe that the murderer was Claire. Now, Claire is this woman who knew Alison's mother and father, they all were part of a cult back in the day, and she's still living in the town. They've got a little bit of a cult running where they sort of do just hippie stuff, but the main members of the cult actually committed suicide years ago. They all jumped into this cave in the ocean that is really good for doing that, because you don't see the bodies. Basically, you can't find the bodies because of the waves and that. They can't get in to search, and stuff ends up being washed out to the sea. So it's this place people do away with themselves for regularly. So the mother pretended to do that because the mother isn't dead. Of course, we find out later that she's not dead, and she comes back because Alison tells her that she's Lenny, but she tells her that she's Alison is dead. So she comes back, and she's only interested in getting some Bible or something. They don't really finish explaining her story. She ends up being killed as well, so I guess it doesn't matter. I thought they'd go into that in like maybe a second series, but she dies. So the first sort of main character dies. They think it's Claire, and they go to Claire's sort of house, and they find the sort of rundown commune, and while they're in there they get chased out by her, and they think they all get out, but Riley doesn't. Now, this is the first time I realised this might be badly written. She's sitting on her phone trying to get a message out to them that she still hasn't gotten out, and a machete goes through her chest. And then we see her lying on the ground, and she's reaching for a phone or something, and her arm gets hacked off, and you think, well, she's dead. Later on, you see she's not dead. She's crawling around the forest. She crawls all the way to her home, to her lawn. Her brother sees her, little brother, and her mother's girlfriend drags the kid in the house for being annoying, and she dies on the lawn. Now, Claire goes back and gets her, and Dylan, who's been going back to this cave because everyone who killed themselves in the cave, someone writes their name in the cave as tribute. He goes to write Alison's name, and he just stumbles across Claire, Claire is a friend of his mother, by the way, who's still in this hippie cult. She has this weird little area that she's filled with candles and honey. She's got all these dead animals and people who are like covered in honey, like they're being preserved or something. He confronts her, and then later we see she's dead, and Riley's standing up covered in honey. And what happened was she finished smothering her in honey, stood her up somehow, and then smothered herself in honey and killed herself. And Riley, I guess, helped her in relieving herself because he's sort of been exposed to this cult and their beliefs. So everything seems to be okay. This is the 6th episode. Everyone seems to be okay. They all go back to normal. Everyone's happy. They think they found who the killer was, and they have memorials and everything. And then you think, how are they going to fill 2 episodes? Are they going to do a spin on I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, or what's going to happen? And I figured out what was going to happen. Alison was going to tell Dylan that she's really Lenny so they can get together because she knows that he loved her. They have sex. She does tell him it goes wrong. I thought it was because he was the killer and he now had to reassess everything because he'd sort of gotten everything how he wanted, and now the wrong person was dead and so forth, blah, blah, blah. But there's some backwards and forwards where you're not quite sure who did it. You see, and this is very deceptive, you see Margot get pushed through a glass window and someone trying to kill her, but it's actually her bodyguard that caught her killing Johnny because she's the killer. And this gets revealed right at the end. She got caught by her bodyguard killing Johnny, and because he was having an affair with her mother, she blackmails him into helping her, so he becomes like the bodyguard. So there are 2 killers in a way, which sort of explains why things happened when she was there, because it couldn't have been her, but that explains why it was. And some of this really feels like they just waited till the end and picked the least likely character and then just made them the killer so no one would guess. And there's no clues. It does mislead you. You do see things that happened to her that couldn't have happened because that's the story that she told happened, but that's not what actually happened, like her being pushed through the window by the killer when she knew who it was. So that's the whole scene where she's looking through the mirror like, who's that? It's just, it's deceptive. It's unfair to the audience. Now, eventually she goes to Dylan and tells him, I think Alison is Lenny. He knows that. They seem to be teaming up, and it seems to be her who's doing the killing. But first we thought it was Dylan, then we thought it was her. And then basically she goes to do something at Claire's or whatever, and he is supposed to be hacking the computer, but he's not. So it looks like he's still guilty, and he's taking the brains out of animals to feed them to these spiders that are Icelandic spiders, which they found in the brains of all the people who were killed, which sort of was a serial killer thing that they was left. So there's an extra layer of complexity there as well, and red herrings and that. But eventually she calls them from Claire's house like she's being attacked. They go to Claire's house, they go down and they find bodies, and it's a mess, and dead animals. And what happens is Dylan gets a call. He gets away from Allison and Margot for a second. Margot reveals she's the killer, stabs Lenny, and basically says, you killed the woman I loved, and you wouldn't tell the truth, and, you know, she's basically crazy. And she did do some things in the show which do make her look very crazy. She had a obscene binge addiction, which she was videoing and doing videos for, which is, I felt so bad for the actress having to shovel this food down her throat. I don't know how she didn't choke. It felt like she was trying to kill herself by doing that. And so she stabs her, and then he comes back. Actually gets hit on the head by the bodyguard, thrown in a room, breaks out, comes back. Margot confronts him with a gun. He gets the gun off her. Then the sheriff shows up. He's already told the sheriff that he felt who Allison was, and they killed her on the road. She didn't believe him, but other things happen. She starts to get suspicious. She shows up. She thinks it's him. He drops the gun, explains it's Margot, and he got the gun off her, and expects Allison to, because she's still alive, to say, yes, Margot stabbed me. She's the killer. She doesn't. She says it was Dylan. Dylan gets arrested, and Margot and Allison go off and live happily ever after as a pair of murderous lesbians, basically. And you see him at the end, sort of on the cliff, sort of in white, saying sort of goodbye to all this and sort of leaving together. Both, I guess, crazy, and both knowing neither can tell the other because they both committed murder. And it just seems like they just tacked that ending on to make it something people wouldn't see coming. And like I said, they set things up that misled you, that really weren't fair. There weren't any real clues, and things that, you know, were shown deceptively. And the other thing that happens is the ending, which is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe I'm still talking after 12 minutes. I tried so hard to do this in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I couldn't do it. But the last thing that happens is we see, even though they've had memorials and everything, this is weeks later, I think 3 weeks later, they show Riley standing in a morgue, standing upright, still covered in honey, and they show a close-up. I'm like, she's not going to wake up, is she? Because she's been in there for weeks, and you can see her face is covered in honey, her nose is covered. She wouldn't be able to breathe, or it looks like that. And her eyes open. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be scary? Is that supposed to be the next season? Because she's going to say, because she knows the truth, she's only ever one who knows the truth, and she's going to expose it all, or was it just a joke? I don't know, but it's not a good series. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed watching the first 6 episodes, and then the 7th episode got a bit confusing. The 8th episode ended so badly, it made me feel like the series sort of undermined the rest of the series. But it was fun, and the characters were good, and it was sort of interesting and thrilling because you really didn't know who did what, because you were being deceived, not because it was well written. So it's confusing and a mess, and not good writing wise, but acting, atmosphere, scenarios, they did sort of work. So I don't regret watching it, but it's hard to recommend it because it deceives you and doesn't end well, and it sort of seems ridiculous. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm sorry I couldn't have been more concise, but it's 8 episodes of very complicated, deceptive, not well written story. But yeah, we've still got the movies.